Hello students, I am Dr. Ashwat. In this session, we are going to discuss about endocrine system. Before going to the endocrine system, we need to discuss about what is body function and how the body function is regulated. So you can observe that for normal metabolic activity, normal body function, we need to have different communications and different systems are there like respiratory system, digestive system, excretory system is there. In single cellular organisms, single cell will perform the entire function, but in multicellular organisms where cell is there, cell group of cell called as tissues, and tissues will give rise to organ, right? And organ gives rise to organ system, right? This organ system to proper function, in proper function of this organ system, some signal transductions should be there that can be communicated, and our body system is properly regulated with nervous system. So, brain through communication will communicate to different organ by nervous system, and also some messengers are there. Some messengers are there that is called as hormones. That chemical messengers will be secreted inside the body, so that hormones also that will have a major function in a in regulating normal function of the metabolic activity and other body functions. So that is the role of hormones here, right? Hormone means, the name itself, you can see the hormone or hormone means to stir up, to put together in action. Like the definition or meaning of that hormone means that will the meaning mainly gives out to excite, to boost up, to put in action, to assign some work. Like that, some different meanings are there. So in that case, hormones and nervous system together will control the body in proper in proper manner. Understand? And then why hormones are necessary? I know, as previously said, nervous system along with hormones will regulate the body function. For that, the necessity of hormones mean, that will be elaborated in next slides here. The first necessity is a regulation of metabolic activity or metabolism. We can observe that, we will take up the food and that will enters the oral cavity, elementary, canal, where you can observe that different enzymes are there, and then after proper swallowing, that will enters to stomach, and then they will have digestive gas and acids are there to regulate all the activity. And during fasting, how come we'll get energy, right? In that case, liver will store the food material in the form of glycogen, and those glycogens are revert back to glucose, and then we'll get energy from that during our fasting. To regulate that, these hormones are crucial, right? So for that purpose, hormones are necessary to regulate the metabolic activity, metabolism. This is the first and foremost the necessity of or functions of hormones. And second one is growth and development. Many hormones are there. Proper secretion of those hormones will give rise to proper growth, and will attain child, whatever things in childhood as well as adolescence, right? Proper growth of the entire organ, body, and then even some hormones are necessary for reproduction also. Proper development of reproductive structures. In that case, for the growth and development, hormones are necessary. The third function of the hormone is reproduction. As I said earlier, some hormones are there that those hormones are necessary for proper functioning of reproductive organ. Take example, in male will have testes, and in females will have ovary, right? Ovary in testes and in ovary, some reproductive structures are there. During reproduction, the proper function is necessary. So if proper functioning is not there, definitely reproduction is not feasible. Right? The main motto of entire, each and every organism is, so to develop, to grow, and then to function very well, and lastly to develop their own type of progeny. For that purpose, these hormones are necessary. Some hormones are there: testosterones, progesterones. Testosterones will give rise to male reproductive structure, proper development of male reproductive structure, and progesterones are there. These progesterones will give rise to proper development of female reproductive structure. Understand? For the proper development of reproductive structures and proper reproductive function, hormones are necessary. This is the third most important and necessity. And fourth necessity is, some hormones are there that will combat this stress here. Some stress are there, I can say, whenever you feel angry, whenever you feel sorrow, whenever you feel guilty, or whenever many feelings are there, in that case stress will develop. So in that, heart rate will increases, eye pupil will increases, and then blood pressure will increases, metabolic activity will be stop. In that stress condition, take example here. Whenever you want to study in examination, before the examination, when you write any examination, you are going to prepare for that. In that, what will happen, your metabolic activity will be slowed down. So that is due to the stress response. In that case, many hormones are there that will induce stress and also cope up the stress. So some hormones are there, we're going to discuss that in detail further. And even in fear, you can see, whenever you look at any threatened animals, wild animals, you will run, and then your body function very well in such a way that you run away from the threat condition, right? So in that condition, these hormones will work very quickly in giving up, and giving most of energy to run away from the danger situation. And next important necessity of hormones are is immune system function. So some hormones are there that will help in proper immune system function. You can see, as thymosin is some hormone which mainly secreted in the thymus. And the thymus, you already know that, this is primary lymphoidal organ. Primary lymphoidal organ means these lymph systems are there, lymphoidal organs are there. These lymphoidal organs are necessary for proper immune system function. This primary lymphoidal organ called as bone marrow, thymus is there, and thymus and other bursa fabricius and many other things are there. That mainly helps in secretion of B cell and T cell and other white blood cells and RB cells also. These are white blood cells entirely helps in proper immune function, right? These are white blood cells which secretes granulocytes, eosinophils, basophils, neutrophils, B cells, T cells, dendritic cells, and the prop in thymus mainly gives rise to T cells. These T cells mainly helps in cell-mediated immunity. Cell-mediated immunity. This immunity will gives out in the release of a T cytotoxic cell, T helper cell, T repressor cell, and T memory cell. These cells are properly functions if thymosin hormones are properly released out. So that is the function of some hormones which mainly regulate the immune system. This is cell-mediated immunity. And the sixth one is water and electrolyte balance. Our body is made up of 90% of water. If only 2% of water is reduced, definitely we will have will also suffer from coma. Remember, so 2% of water in our body is reduced, then that will have, our body system will also went into coma because of the electrolyte imbalance in your body. So water is very crucial for your body. Only 2% among 90% is reduced. That will leads to death or coma. So in that case, some hormones are there. That hormones mainly gives rise to water balance in your system. Take example here. When you are going to sports, you will not properly drink water, right? In that case, how our body system, whenever you run faster and play cricket, whatever, your sweat will be gone, right? Water will be lost through sweat, right, to balance the temperature. In that case, whatever the waste water is there in your urine system will be reverted back, and only water will be absorbed. That is called reabsorption of water from the Henle's loop of kidney system. So that mainly gone by a hormone called as antidiuretic hormone, right? Whenever you are not taking proper water, then our body system will take up the water from the kidney. When whenever the blood rushes through kidney, the water along with the water, other salt, everything will be released out from the urine. Whenever you are, for prolonged period of time you didn't take water, then water from the urine will be taken back by a hormone called ADH hormone. So that will mainly helps in water and electrolyte balance in your body. Whenever our body system will not take up the water availability is not there, and then will not take up the water in proper condition. Next important necessity of hormone is blood pressure regulation. So blood pressure regulation means, some hormones are there. During some conditions, that will release up the hormones which mainly increases the blood pressure, right? That hormones mainly, during emergency condition, during anxiety, during fast running, that will regulate the blood pressure to pump up the blood for the different body parts. So that is regulated by hormones. And the next necessity is called as mood and emotions. You can observe that some hormones are there. During depression, some level of hormones will be increased. You can see happiness, serotonin level will be increased. In anxiety, dopamine level will be increased somewhat. In love, emotions, you can observe that all the dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin will be increased out. In depression, the level of hormones will be decreased in drastic way. So in that you can see in different moods here, anxiety, the level of hormones, and in love, level of hormones, and in different emotions, you can observe that the level of hormones will be increased or decreased. So depression and anxiety, you can observe that level of dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin will be drastically reduced. So that is this, that the mood swing and other conditions where I can observe that somebody is suffering from some disorder. In that case, they will have improper mood. That is, mood swing happens over the period of time. That is due to this improper secretion of these hormones. Next, we'll move on to general properties of hormones. Previously, we discussed about why hormones are necessary for our body. Next, we'll move on to the general properties. What are the silent features of the hormones are there? And the first, the important property of hormones is the hormones are secreted directly to the blood here. Generally, most of the hormones are secreted by endocrine system. Because of that, the endocrine cells secrete these hormones in distant location, and then these hormones are circulated through bloodstream and then reach up the target cell, right? And hormones are transported through blood and then they secreted by a specialized cells called as glands. And from the glands, they will secrete it and then they transport it through bloodstream and then directly reach up the target specific cell. And second property is they will affect the body by chemical signals. As I said earlier, they are chemical messengers. Because of the secretion, they will change the body function. I can observe that they some secretory cells are there. These secretory cells will release of the chemicals through bloodstream that will reach up the target. And the target cells, why only the hormones act upon target cell means the target cell will have specific receptors, so that it will only these chemical messengers will binds onto that and change the function of those target cells. The third property of that is they distantly act on target cell. As I said earlier, the all the hormones are secreted by endocrine glands. Endocrine glands are distantly present, and these chemicals mainly released from the releasing endocrine gland cells, passed out from the bloodstream and then reach up the target cell, which has specific receptors here. And fourth property is hormones from one species also shows similar effect, similar influence on other species too. Because of this property, some hormones are synthesized in bacterium, and also some hormones are synthesized in other animals and given to the human beings. Take example here, genetically modified bacterium and fungi releases insulin. This insulin used for the purpose of the people who are suffering from diabetes. Diabetes, insufficient amount of insulin secretion, which gives rise to a disease called as diabetes, generally be called as sugar, right? Blood sugar. So that will be synthesized from the bacterium, and then that will be isolated, extracted, and injected to human beings. So because of that, hormones from different species have different function. Don't think that bacteria will produce us insulin. Bacteria, there is no necessity for the bacteria to produce insulin. We will modify bacteria to synthesize insulin. But even if you isolate from insulin from mice, that will also works on human beings. In mice also insulin works. Insulin necessity is there. So whenever if you isolate mice insulin and inject it to human beings, that will be compatible for human beings also. You can see here. So this whatever things are there, the structure, the base structure, the skeleton structure will be same, so that the receptor. So you can see here, particular structure of chemicals will have particular receptor. Here, this is the receptor, protein, which will receive specific shape of the secretory protein here. Whenever proteins or chemicals are secreted, that will reach up the target cell, and they will bind because of the specificity of the target cell, right? If structures are similar, definitely the other species chemicals, similar chemicals also influence on the other species, intraspecies. We'll move on to the next property called as they produce effectively and produce and effective in little concentration also. That means small concentration of these hormones is effective in regulation of metabolic activity. And sixth property is, I can say, chemically hormones are three types. The first one is called as peptides, second one is called as amines, and third one is called as steroids. And peptide and amines are water soluble. Remember this. In examination, they will ask which type of the hormone, which two types of the hormone is water soluble, and which type of the hormone is lipid soluble or fat soluble. These steroids are lipid soluble. They are not dissolve. They are not water soluble. Understand? Amines and peptides. Remember, amines and peptides are water soluble. So here in peptides, the peptide type of category of the hormones are insulin, and amine type of hormones are thyroxine, that is insulin which is produced in pancreas, and thyroxine, adrenaline, the thyroxine which produced in thyroid, and adrenaline which is produced in adrenal gland above the kidney. And next category is called as steroids. The steroids, which is lipid soluble, which produce in that category, you can observe that progesterones, testosterone, and estrogens are there. These are the sex hormones. Sex hormones means it's produced in sexual part organs and helps in development of secondary sexual character. So remember, this is important for your examination. Types of hormones. They ask for the 2 marks. You can write directly. Peptides, hormones, and steroids. And even for the fill in the blanks and for 1 marks question, they will ask which one is water soluble hormone. You can observe insulin, thyroxine, adrenaline is water soluble, and you can also categorize them as amines and peptides generally are water soluble, and steroids are lipid soluble. And you can give example for thyroid and amines and peptides individually to get maximum marks. And next property is their excess and deficiency in the body will lead to disorder or serious consequences. Take example here. Here you can observe that thyroxine and other growth hormones are there. If growth hormones are not properly secreted, because of not proper secretion, you can see the man, adult man, is suffering from dwarfism. Dwarfism means he is shorter, stunted growth is there. You can see this is the normal height of the person, 6 feet. This is the 6 feet person, but lesser secretion of hormones, growth hormone, which gives rise to the lilliputs. You can observe that this is not a child, but this is adult man who is suffering from less secretion of growth hormone. That condition is called as dwarfism, right? Or other conditions also there. If over secretion of those growth hormones takes place, you can see here, the person who is gigantic, and he suffers from gigantism. If the person is suffering from dwarfism, they can observe that they are definitely will have stunted growth, and body parts are stunted, and then body function will be abnormal. If growth hormones are over secreted, what will happen? The blood circulation will be altered. You can see here, for 6 feet, the heart is made up of heart from any organism is will pump up the blood only if he attain a level of growth. Above that, heart should pump very effectively to pump the blood up to 12 feet. That is very bad condition for the heart, where you can observe that should get more energy to pump that blood to this gigantic man, so that heart failure, other abnormalities happens when excess amount of growth hormones are secreted, or other hormones are secreted. So this is the consequences. Normal secretion is necessary, but over secretion, which gives rise to abnormal function. Example, I took is growth hormone, where over secretion, which gives rise to gigantic man, less secretion will give rise to dwarf man. The eighth property of the hormone is hormones are not stored in the body and excreted from the system. As I said earlier, you can observe that there is a secretory body is there. The secretory body will be, which secretes the chemical, and this chemical pass through blood and then reach the target cell. You can observe that the target cell only targeted, and and then by the activation of the binding of this chemical messenger, this cell will be activated. Why that is activated? Because specific, the chemical structure is complement to the structure of this the target receptor, so that it will bind specifically and then activate this target cell, or brought about by dash and dash system. We already discussed that the body function, proper body function should be attained by two systems. One is called as nervous system. So signals, nerve to nerve signal transduction is there. In that, in nervous system will mainly regulate the body activity first, and also by endocrine system, so which secretes the hormone. The second question is nerve system and then endocrine system, and second question is hormones are secreted directly into the blood. We already know that blood, through blood only the hormones are secreted and reach up the target cell. And then the third question is chemically some hormones are, we already know the types of hormones, right? Types of hormones are there. First one is called as peptides, second one is called as amines, and third one is called as steroids, right? So to confuse people, proteins also given. This is not the case. This is first one is called peptides, and then steroids is already given, and then the third one is called as amines, right? Which one is water soluble? Which one is fat soluble? You already know that peptide and amines are water soluble, and then steroids are fat soluble. Remember. And the fourth question is both dash and deficiency of hormones leads to serious consequences. Deficiency means less secretion, and excess is called as over secretion. Excess, both excess and deficiency of hormones leads to serious consequences and diseases. The first question is hormones produced in one species usually shows dash influence on other species, because hormones structurally somewhat similar in different species. Because of that they will have similar influence. Similar influence is there. Similar influence is there with the other species also. Next, we can check that by characteristics of hormones here. Site of action, site of action of the hormones, where you can observe that the hormones will be secreted from the cells, and then it will pass through blood, right? And then from the blood to target cell target cell will be site of action, right? So secretory cells are there. From that hormones are secreted by time to time, and then that will pass through, circulate through blood, and then that will reach up the target cell. And the chemical nature of the hormones means we already know that chemically hormones are categorized into amines, peptides, peptides, and then steroids. And then we can categorize them. Amines and peptides are water soluble, and then steroids are water insoluble and fat soluble. And manner of transportation means through blood only hormones are transported and then reach up the target cell, right? Site of action will be distant. Here distant site of action is there. Site of action is there where the hormones are secreted and circulate from the blood and reach up the target cell. And manner of transportation of the hormones are through blood system only. They will circulate and reach up the target cell. So remember, right? So if you okay with that, we'll move on to next slides with respect to different hormones here. We are discussing about endocrine, right? We discuss about the hormones, hormonal properties, characteristics, and along with the hormones, nerve system also take part in proper functioning of the body, and deficiency and site of action, chemical nature of hormones are discussed. Next, we will move on to the endocrine system. Why? Because hormones mainly secreted by endocrine glands. What is endocrine gland? What is it? We are discussing that, we are mentioning endocrine, but what is endocrine glands and what is opposite to that? That is called exocrine glands, right? Exocrine gland and endocrine glands. What is endocrine glands means? Endocrine glands are the glands which is present in our body, in our human system, which mainly secrete hormones with ductless glands. Ductless glands means, if a sac-like structure is there, from that a chemical is released out. That is called this is called as ducts, right? These ducts which release out chemicals, this is called as exocrine glands. From that ducts only these chemicals are secreted. But endocrine system of glands are present, where you can observe that cells are present, but these cells are not present in ducts, sac-like structure, right? And they are not present in ducts, right? And they will secrete over the period of time some chemicals. These chemicals reach up and travel from the bloodstream, travel through the bloodstream, and reach up the target cell. This system is called as endocrine system, where they doesn't contain ducts. They are also called as ductless glands. Ductless glands. From that, hormones or chemical messenger is secreted, and they pass through blood and then influence on some target cell. Major type of endocrine glands are mentioned here. First one is adrenal gland. Second one is pancreas. Pancreas is a special type of gland which is duct gland and ductless also. We'll discuss that while discussing with pancreas. And thyroid is there. Pituitary gland is there. Parathyroid is there. Thymus gland is there, and gonads are there. You can observe that adrenal gland present above the kidney, which releases some hormones, and pancreas which is present here. You already know the digestive system, where pancreatic juice is released out. It secretes nearly 5 to 6 enzymes which mainly degrade proteins, sugars, and even some tissues, connective tissues are degraded because of the pancreatic enzyme, right? So it is ductless and exocrine and endocrine also. We're going to discuss that in next slides. And thyroid is present near the neck region, and pituitary, which is present in the brain in hypothalamus region, and parathyroid is there, which is also present in the thyroid system, and thymus is there. You can see here thymus system is there. This thymus is present here, and thymus, sorry, here near the heart present thymus. Above the heart, near the region, we will find thymus here, and and the gonads are there. You can observe that testes and ovaries are there. This is ovaries are in females and testes in males. They are also endocrine system. First, we'll go by one. First, we'll move with adrenal gland. Right? These are the list of the hormones, and we'll first move on to the first gland called as adrenal gland. So adrenal gland, which is mainly present above the kidney, you can observe that this is present above the kidney. Both kidneys, in both kidneys, in above, you can observe that a whitish color, a triangular shape glands are present. That is called as adrenal gland. I can observe that if you take the anatomy and dissection of adrenal gland, you can observe that there is two parts. The outer layer is called as capsule, and inner layer is called as medulla, and the middle layer is called as cortex, and it is categorized in a two part. One is called as adrenal cortex, and second part is adrenal medulla. Why the categories happens in cortex? Some different hormones are secreted. In medulla, different hormones are secreted. That is necessary for body function. First, we will move on to the first part called as medulla. The middle part of the adrenal gland contains medulla. That is called adrenal medulla. The adrenal medulla secretes a typical hormone called as epinephrine and norepinephrine. Right? It is also called as adrenaline and noradrenaline, and it is also called as epinephrine or noepinephrine, and it is also called as adrenaline and noradrenaline. So it has similar function. Two hormones are secreted from the middle part of the adrenal gland called as epinephrine and norepinephrine, or adrenaline or noradrenaline, which mainly helps in giving gives out energy when you are in threat condition. Take example here. If dog is barking at you, want to attack you, what will happens? Your body quickly excited, and then from the adrenal medulla, this adrenaline hormone is released out, or epinephrine is released out, and your body quickly wants to come out from that threat condition. You can observe that here, your body excited very quickly, and you will either fight if you are potent enough to fight against the animal, or you run away from it. Even quarrel condition, whenever if somebody want to quarrel with you, either based on the capacity, either you will fight or run away from that. Like that here are dogs, in front of dog, in front of other animals also, these adrenaline quickly released out whenever threat conditions are there. Brain will signal out, and adrenaline will raise out a hormone, either that will give energy to run away from that, or it will give energy in such a way that you will fight against that very quickly. So that is called as fight to face danger, or fight to run away from that. Understand? So that is the function of this epinephrine or adrenaline. Understand? Epinephrine, so sorry for that. Epinephrine and norepinephrine functions are somewhat similar. Next, uh, effect of adrenaline. Here you can see here, increase. It will increase the heartbeat. Whenever heartbeats are increased out, so what will happens? Increased blood supply will takes place, and glucose will be released out from to the blood. Whenever glucose will be released out, what will happens? So our body will get lots of energy. Either we will fight against that, or we ran away from that very quickly. I mean, a quick amount of quick time intervals. We either we'll fight it, or we'll run away from that. So because of adrenaline, you can observe that heart rate increases, and breathing increases. So, oxygen is necessary. So what will happen? Whenever oxygen is increased out, that will helps in production of the energy very faster. And blood circulation, whenever artery constricted, and then definitely blood flow will be faster. Because of that, energy will be released out very quickly. Whenever energy is released out, that will reach up the muscles, and then muscles will act very quickly, either that make you to run away from the threat, or it will make you to fight against that. And liver also released out energy, where liver converts the glycogen into glucose, and glucose is readily available for the fighting. And then the fats will be released out, and that helps in the secretion of the energy. Like that, adrenaline, or you can observe that epinephrine works to fight against danger, or get away from the danger. So second part of the adrenal gland is adrenal cortex. The adrenal cortex will release out different types of hormones. In that, best known hormone is cortisol. So here I can observe that the cortisol, which mainly act upon to suppress inflammation reaction. Inflammation reaction means whenever whenever honey bee bites on your skin, you can see your body will swell up, and the swelling part will filled up with water, and then the swollen part will be red in color, right? And then many other things will happen, and then you will touch when you touch that swollen part, it will be senseless. It will feel senseless. Like that, some conditions will happen, that will be suppressed by cortisol. And other hormones also released out. We will discuss about that hormones from the adrenal cortex. This is called as cortical hormones. It is of two types. One is called as mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids. So mineralocorticoids, gives out the function in regulation of the metabolic minerals in your body. Whenever the abnormality happens in mineralocorticoids, you can see the potassium ion gated channels or sodium ion gated channels in your body will be abnormal functions takes place here. Next one is called as glucocorticoids. These glucocorticoids will increase the blood glucose concentration, regulate fat protein metabolism, regulate salt water balance in your body, adapt body to heat cold stress, and some hormones also gives out the secondary sexual characters. That means mustache formation in man, hair, long hair growth in females, and you can observe that no hair growth in the face of females, or hair growth and beard formation in male. That is called as sex-related characters to differentiate male and female will be monitored by these glucocorticoids. If abnormality of these glucocorticoids will happen, we can observe that not only it acts upon these parameters but also adversely affect on the secondary sexual characters. Take example here. So because of the improper secretion of glucocorticoids, you can see the females will have mustache and then beard also there for the female. For the man, you can observe that this is called as virilism. You can observe that virilism is mainly caused by abnormal function of glucocorticoids. You can observe that male have female type of body and female will have male type of gestures. You can see here mustache is there, beard is there for female, and then you can observe that male will have this chest, prolonged chest, and then you can observe that this vertebral change will takes place, and you can observe that reproductive structures is diminished, and you can observe that enlarged hands and feet are there, and then visual deformities will happen in faces also. You can observe that. So that is the characteristics of the abnormal secretion of the glucocorticoids that leads to the formation of a disease called as virilism in male, female character, and females in male type of features or appears. Hyposecretion of the adrenal cortex hormones. Hyposecretion means less secretion. Hypo means less secretion. Hyper means over secretion. The hyposecretion of these adrenal cortex hormones, which gives rise to the disease called as Addison disease. Addison's disease. So symptoms of Addison disease means you can see adrenal cortex, which release out two different type of hormones. We already discussed that. This is also important, cortisols. Along with that, you can see mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids are released out from the adrenal cortex. Because of the abnormal secretion, less secretion, you can observe that if as I said earlier, adrenal cortex released out glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. Minerals are not secreted, and the metabolic activity and other activities, normal functioning of metabolism will not be proper in malfunction of adrenal cortex, hyposecretion of adrenal cortex hormones. In that case, you can see extreme fatigue will be there. Extreme fatigue means the body function will be slower, and because of improper metabolic activity, the person will not gain weight here, and because of improper secretion, there is less appetites will be there, and because of the normal abnormal less secretion of these adrenal cortex hormones, the body skin will be darkens, and because of that low blood pressure will be there, because less energy will be there, because of that heartbeat also lesser, low blood sugar level is there, because adrenal cortex hormones, especially glucocorticoids, which helps in increase the glucose level in the blood and helps in proper metabolic activity. Because of that, low blood sugar level will be there. That is called hyperglycemic condition. And whenever, as I said earlier, mineralocorticoids also there. So mineralocorticoids are also present. This mainly helps in balancing the water inside the body. Whenever these mineralocorticoids abnormal function will be there, less secretion is there, the water will be influx to the uh, digestive system. Whenever more water influx happens to the digestive system, what will happen? That leads to the symptoms called as nausea, vomiting sensation, diarrhea, water. Why? Because mineralocorticoids, which mainly helps in balancing of sodium and potassium gated channel and helps in water balancing. If water balancing is not there, so stools and diarrhea, stools will be watery and causes watery diarrhea, and gastrointestinal symptoms are there. That is due to abnormal functioning of mineralocorticoids, and that leads to the abdominal pain, muscle joint pain. Why? Because these minerals are necessary for proper cell function. If more water is comes out from that, because of egg osmosis, that leads to the cell become turgid or flaccid because of improper movement of water. Whenever water is not there, definitely muscle will suffer from the pain because of less water condition. And irritation, as I said earlier, that causes irritability, depression. Water, if even 22% of water is lost from your body because of diarrhea, that causes depression, mental imbalance, and even the body balance also lost because of that. Next, we discuss about hyposecretion, less secretion that causes Addison disease, where hypersecretion, what will happen? Adrenal cortex hormones, mineralocorticoids, and glucocorticoids are over-secreted. What will happen? That causes a symptom called as Cushing syndrome. Cushing syndrome means, you can observe that because of over secretion of these hormones, adrenal cortex hormones that causes mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids, which leads to the formation of the more secretion, more glucose that causes sugar, hyperglycemic condition. That means hyperglycemic condition, more sugar condition, and because of more sugar, mood swing will happen. Same, if less sugar is there, less mood swing will be there. More sugar, mood swing will also exist, and then redness of the face will take place. Redness, and then more sugar, more susceptible to infections, and you can observe that the person becomes weaker because of more glucose in your body, and then tiredness will be common symptom, and you can observe that because of more sugar your vision will be blurred. Glaucoma means vision will be blurred because of more sugar. And if more sugar is there, definitely the dizziness means you cannot control your body, and then you will faint soon because of the symptom. And then um, because of more sugar, I can observe that bones and other things will be definitely deformed, and you'll have bruising in your body. And because of that, because of over secretion of these adrenal cortex hormones, you'll have more excessive growth of hair on your body, in neck, chest, abdomen, including your thighs also. And but on your head, you will suffer from balding, right? Bald headness or balding will happen, but in all other body parts, you can observe that excess growth of the hair will take place because of over secretion of these adrenal cortex hormones. So we complete the adrenal glands. In that, adrenal gland is mainly above the kidney, and it has two parts. One is called as adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. You can observe that this adrenal medulla, which secretes a typical hormone, which mainly secrete two types of hormones. One is called as corticoids, sorry, epinephrine, as well as norepinephrine, which mainly helps in releasing of the sugar in your body whenever you face the threat condition. When you're during your danger condition, that will release out and helps in quick action against that. Either you will go away from the danger, or you will face the danger. And uh, and you can observe that it will increase the heartbeat. Everything will be done by these two hormones, what is called as adrenaline and noradrenaline. Adrenaline, noradrenaline, which mainly release out from the medulla, adrenal medulla, and then adrenal cortex will release out cortisones and corticoids and corticoids. Glucocorticoids, which mainly regulate the blood sugar level, regulate fat metabolism, and also which mainly gives out some secondary sexual characters. Mineralocorticoids, which regulates the sodium and potassium ion gate channels. If abnormality will take place, which leads to vomiting sensation, diarrhea, and then muscular weakness will be there, with respect to mineralocorticoids. And with respect to abnormal function, which leads to increase in blood level or decrease in blood level, hyperglycemia, hypoglycemia, and then restlessness, tiredness, fatigue, and other symptoms are there that is related to abnormal functioning, abnormal secretion of these the glucocorticoids, and uh, less secretion, which gives rise to Addison disease, over secretion which gives rise to Cushing disease. Next, we move on to one more endocrine gland called as pancreas or pancreatic gland. You can observe that this is typical gland which is both it functions as both endocrine and exocrine. This is endocrine ductless, and then exocrine gland, that is duct. So as a duct gland, it will release out the pancreatic juice. So pancreatic juice contains different types of enzymes. These enzymes helps in digestion of sugars, proteins, and even the fiber materials, like muscular tissues and other things will be released out. So you can see here pancreatic juice release out generally five enzymes: proteases, the proteases which contains trypsinogen, which generally called as trypsin, and chymotrypsin or chymotrypsinogen, and then carboxypeptidase, three hormones which release out from the duct glands of pancreas, which mainly degrade proteins here. Proteases, which degrade proteins, and lipids, which degrade lipids here. Amylase, which which degrade the sugars, and then nucleases are there. So DNA and RNA will be degraded and converted into nitrogenous bases, and then elastases are there. Some elastic fibers are there, elastins are there, that present in both animals and plants. If you consume animal-based food and plant-based food, so that will be degraded with the help of nucleases, elastases, proteases, and amylases. As a ductless, we are discussing about endocrine glands, right? As a ductless gland, we need to focus on this. We should neglect this because we are not discussing about digestive system. We are discussing about endocrine system. We must focus on this. As a ductless, as an endocrine gland, this pancreas releases different types of hormones here. So from the special type of cells called as islets of Langerhans. Islets of Langerhans, which contains different types of cells that categorized based on the secretion of different hormones. One is beta, alpha, and delta. Beta cells, which releases insulin, which regulate glucose, and then alpha cells releases glucagon, which mainly degrade the glycogen, which is a reserve food material in the liver, and the delta cell, which release out some other hormone called as somatostatin, somatostatin, which regulate both glucagon as well as insulin. So it has negative regulation on the insulin and glucagon. So this is the three category of cells: beta, alpha, and delta, which releases insulin, glucagon, and somatostatin respectively from the cells of ductless glands of pancreas, which is specialized cells called as islets of Langerhans. First, we will move on to the first hormone called as insulin that is secreted from the beta cells of islets of Langerhans. Endocrine system of pancreas contains a specialized cell called as islets of Langerhans. In that, beta cells release out the hormone called as insulin. We already know that insulin is very famous now, because many in each and every family there is sugar patients are there, or diabetic patients are there. They are taking insulin injection. Some patients are taking tablets, some patients are taking insulin. In that case, you can see insulin will not increase the glucose level in the blood or decrease the glucose level. Many of them are in a false assumption that whenever the role of insulin is increase the blood sugar level or decrease the blood sugar level. So that is not the case here. So here insulin will influence the body cells in promote the glucose utilization. Either it will utilize the glucose and convert it into energy, or excess of glucose will be influenced and converted into glycogen. Glycogen will be converted, and then it will be reserved food material in the body, right? So here promotes the glucose utilization. Insulin will not decrease the sugar level, but promotes the glucose utilization by the body cells. So you should not in a assumption that because of taking insulin will reduce the glucose level, but that will influence on the body cell in utilization of the glucose and stimulate the deposition of extra glucose in the liver as glycogen reserve food material, right? Remember, some amount of glucose is necessary for the body function. In that case, you can observe that whenever excess of glucose is produced, when we consume more food, take example, whenever you attend functions, you will eat like anything. That means you will eat all the dishes in the function excessively, whatever you're consuming in normal condition, right? In that case, extra glucose is produced. Those extra glucose will be stored as reserve food material. Assume that these beta cells will not produce this insulin properly. That causes the hyposecretion of insulin in the body. So insufficient amount of insulin secreted, that is called as hyposecretion, that causes type 1 diabetes. Many types of diabetes is there: type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, different types of other gestational diabetes and other type of diabetes is there. But type 1 diabetes is mainly caused due to insufficient secretion of insulin. The beta cells either uh, abnormally function, that leads to the formation of less secretion or low secretion or nil secretion of insulin by the beta cells of islets of Langerhans of pancreatic cells here. Because of insufficient secretion of these insulin, that leads to the type 1 diabetes, that is also called as diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus means honey or sweet type of content. Diabetes means sugar, right? We can observe that high concentration of because of insulin is not properly secreted. Then what will happen? So the insulin will influence on the cells to take up the glucose, that will not function properly, and then because of less insulin, the excess amount of glucose also not deposited as a glycogen. So because of this function, so in sugar, whenever when we consume food, that will reach up the that will take up all the pathway to large small intestine. In small intestine, a finger like projections are there. You can see this is the structure of small intestine. Here a finger like projections are there. This is called as villi, right? Villus or villi. These villi will help in absorption of food, digested food, and here blood system is there. Whenever villus absorbs and then will circulate in the blood, and blood will take up into different cells, and then cell utilizes and consume that sugar and increases energy, right? Excess of sugar is there. That sugar will be converted again by the influence of insulin and converted into the glycogen and stored in liver. If insulin is not properly secreted, definitely, so cells are not activated to utilize the insulin will take place, but also the extra glucose in the sugar will be not converted into glycogen. Because of that, in blood more sugar will be say deposited. Because of high concentration of sugar, you can observe that hyper higher glycemic condition. Glycemia means glycem means sugar, and emia, that means blood. Emia means blood. High concentration of sugar in the blood because of the less insulin secretion. And because of that, you can see in urine we can observe that a large amount of sugar will be secreted. So whenever sugar mixed urine is secreted, more urine will be goes out with the urine, and then that will lead to the formation of thirsty. Thirsty means you'll feel thirsty, and you'll drink a lot of water. And because of more period of urine secretion, you will feel weakness, fatigue condition, and you will lose weight because of these diabetes. And you can observe that excess amount of sugar that leads to the glaucoma condition. Glaucoma condition means because of higher amount of sugar condition that leads to the formation of vision loss. Normal function of eye will be lost because of excess amount of sugar that leads to blindness or vision loss. Treatment means this type 1 type of diabetes where insulin is injected. That means either they will produce insulin, extract insulin from different animal, or genetically modified bacteria will produce insulin. That insulin will be directly injected, administered into the body of the person who is suffering from type 1 diabetes. Sorry, type 2 diabetes means um, that is different type of diabetes where some medicines are there, like you can observe different medication that will reduce that will increase the functioning of the B cells, beta cells. But type 1 diabetes where functioning of beta cells will be gone. So because of that, the patient who are suffering from type 1 diabetes should, the mainly only remedy is you need to take insulin only. Otherwise, the excess amount of glucose will be there in your blood. There is no medication for type 1 diabetes. You cannot take medicine, only you need to take injections of insulin. Understand? Type 2 means you can take some metformin and other atenol, or some different medicines are there that will increase the function of the insulin. Insulin is properly secreted in type 2, but the body is will not take up the insulin properly. Body function will be abnormal, but insulin is not will be produced properly in type 2. Type 2 diabetes, insulin is properly secreted, but thing is body cell is modified so that it will not take up the insulin, so that is not influenced by insulin, so that you will change that by taking some drug called as metformin drug. But type 1 diabetes where improper secretion of insulin will be takes place because of the non-functioning of beta cells, where you can observe that you need to take insulin as an injection. Next one is over secretion of insulin. What will happen when what is the role of insulin? As I said, in normal secretion of insulin from the beta cells of islets of Langerhans, you can see it will help the that will activate the cell to regulate the glucose level. That means promote the glucose uptake by the body cells. That means the body that will make a environ that will be, the cell will take up the glucose and utilize for the metabolic activity, right? If over secretion of insulin takes place, what will happen? Over secretion which leads to hypoglycemic condition, less sugar in the blood. Hypo means less, glycemia means sugar, and emia means blood. Less sugar in the blood, so that will lead to the a state of coma. Whenever sugar is less in your body, what will happen? Brain function will be altered, heart function will be altered, respiration function will be altered. That will lead to the formation of a coma condition. And then you can observe that uh, overdose of insulin also. You can see here, whenever the type 1 type of diabetic patients will take up more insulin, more insulin. You can see some insulin, if some prescription is there, some level of and some mg of insulin you need to take in case of diabetes, type 1 type of diabetic condition. Accidentally you took more dose of insulin, that will also lead to the condition called as coma, right? Whenever over secretion of insulin takes place, that leads to the hypoglycemic condition, less sugar in your blood. Next type of hormones from the alpha cells of islets of Langerhans, which releases a hormone called as glucagon from the alpha cells. So this the glucagon role is, so that will converts, so that will stimulate the breakdown of the sugar, the reserve food material called as glycogen in the liver to glucose. Take example here, insulin. So role of insulin means that will promote the glucose intake by the cells. Insulin role is promote the glucose intake by the cell, and then excess of sugar or glucose will be converted into glycogen. So that will be stored in liver, right? In liver, the glycogen is stored because of the insulin secretion, right? Insulin secretion, that excess of sugar will be converted into glycogen and that's stored in liver. During fasting condition or during jogging condition, jogging condition or walking condition, you need more energy, and more energy will be burnt out. In that condition, the reserved food material which is stored in the liver as a glycogen should be converted into glucose, right? So in conversion of that, the glycogen into glucose, this glucagon, which is secreted from the alpha cells of islets of Langerhans of pancreas, you can observe that that will convert this glycogen into glucose and helps in emergency condition whenever we are in fasting, right? Whenever whenever we went to forest, there is no availability of food for nearly 3 to 4 days. We can survive without any uh, 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 tiredness, without any fatigue condition. We can walk very quickly and find the route for the village or nearby cities whenever we lost in the forest. So that will be that will be helpful whenever we store the food in glycogen. In excess of sugar will be converted into glycogen with the action of insulin, and those glycogen reserve food material in the liver will be converted in during fasting condition, during exercise condition. This glycogen will be converted into glucose and gives energy for the body because of the action of the glucagon, which is secreted from the alpha cells of islets of Langerhans. And one more hormone is there, that is not in your syllabus copy, but that is there plus somatostatin. This somatostatin, which inhibit the secretion of insulin and insulin as well as glucagon. So excess of, that is called as regulation of insulin. Regulation of insulin and glucose. You can see if the alpha cell, sorry, beta cells and alpha cells glows on secreting insulin and glucagon, definitely abnormal body conditions takes place. So even in a dam also, if no, check dam, so gates are not there, the water flow continues and then water will be lost. Like that, here also insulin and glucagon should be controlled by one more hormone, that is from the delta cells of islets of Langerhans, that is called as somatostatin. This somatostatin will regulate, inhibit the secretion of insulin and glucagon in unnecessary conditions. Understand? That is the role of pancreas. If you revise the pancreas, pancreas is ductless and duct glands also. Both ductless, it act as both duct as well as ductless glands. As a duct gland, it releases pancreatic juice. It contains 5 different enzymes that mainly gives out the degradation of sugar, fat, proteins, and other type of fibrous materials. And you can observe that as a ductless gland, in a special cell called as islets of Langerhans. It contains 3 different kinds of cells. One is called as beta cells, One is alpha cells, one is a delta cell. The beta cell will release a crucial hormone called as insulin that mainly promotes the glucose uptake by the body cells. That will not increases the level or decreases the insulin, sugar level in the body. Many of them are understand misunderstand the role of insulin that will promote the cell in taking up of glucose. That's it. And also excess of glucose will be converted into glycogen by the action of the insulin, and deficiency causes type 1 diabetes. Remember, not type 2, type 3, type 4. That causes type 1 diabetes where insufficient amount of insulin will be secreted. And right, who and all suffering from type 1 diabetes should take insulin injection. There is no other remedies. Next one, less secretion of insulin, which leads to the coma, right? And next hormone from the alpha cells of islets of Langerhans is glucagon. Whatever the extra sugar which will be converted into reserve food material in the liver, glycogen, will be converted back to glucose whenever we are in fasting condition to rise up the sugar level in the blood, right? So that will be monitored by glucagon. And one more hormone released from the delta cells of pancreas, that is called as statin, sorry, that will regulate, inhibit the function of insulin and glucagon. Understand? So this is the pathway you can observe here. Insulin, which stimulate the glucose uptake by the body, and the excess of sugar will be converted into glycogen formation, and glycogen is stored in the liver. And during fasting condition, insulin secretion will be stopped, and then that is the stoppage of insulin will be regulated by somatostatin, and then glucagon will be secreted from the alpha cells of islets of Langerhans, and glucagon again goes back to liver, and then it will convert the reserve food material called as glycogen into glucose, and then balance the sugar level in the blood. And then the somatostatin, which will regulate both insulin and glucagon and stop the secretion of that. So that will be the pancreas. And next one is, if you check the progress here, uh, take example here, mention, this is the fill in the blanks here, mention the cells, three types of cells in islets of Langerhans. Alpha, which gives rise to hormone called as glucagon, and then beta cells, insulin, and then delta cell, somatostatin, somatostatin. And then second one is mention the two principal way which insulin acts. That means that will regulate regulate the cell in taking up of sugar, taking up of glucose, right? Promote the cell to take up the glucose, and also excess of glucose will be converted into glycogen and stored in liver. And then name the following condition: passage of much glucose in urine, passage of much glucose in urine is mainly the symptom of the type 1 type of diabetes, where insufficient amount of the insulin secretion will take place, so that it will not regulate it will not promote the cell to take up the glucose, and then excess of glucose will not be converted into glycogen because of insufficient amount of insulin. And overdose of insulin makes the diabetic patients unconscious. That will lead to the coma, because you can see same pathway will take place whenever excess of insulin will be secreted above the normal level. What will happen? So that causes hypoglycemic hypoglycemic condition. Hypoglycemic condition means less amount of sugar in the blood, that mainly leads to coma condition, unconsciousness, and that causes coma. Next one, lists any three types of symptoms of diabetes mellitus. Different types of diabetes mellitus is there. If you take type 1 with respect to this syllabus, you can observe that. So, excess amount of sugar, right, in the blood, and then next symptom is definitely more urine, and then urine contains more sugar, and then the next symptom is plus glaucoma. Glaucoma, because of more amount of sugar in the blood, vision problem will take place, blurriness of vision takes place. That is the common symptoms in diabetes mellitus. List out any two effects of adrenaline. Adrenaline, you already know that adrenaline, which may releases, hormones, that will, that will give energy to uh, uh, get back from the threat condition. So, two effects means uh, it will increase the heart rate, right? It will increase the metabolic activity, right? Some adrenal type of hormones, right? Adrenal gland also decides secondary sexual characters like mustache in the men, and then the hairlessness in the face of female, normal female sexual character. And sixth one is name the two category of hormones secreted by adrenal cortex. So you already know that adrenal um, adrenal cortex, two category of hormones are released out from the cortex is glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. Glucocorticoids, which will regulate the metabolic activity, and mineralocorticoids, which will regulate the sodium and potassium pumps here, and regulate the water balance in the body, and then uh, glucocorticoids, which mainly regulates the metabolic activity and regulate the sugar level in the blood. So that is the progress check. If you know the answer very well, definitely you understand my lessons. Next, we'll move on to next type of endocrine gland called as thyroid. So thyroid gland, which is present below the larynx and above the trachea, you can observe that a butterfly shape or wing shape, bilobed structure is present. That is called as thyroid gland. So it contains two lobes, bilobed, right lobe and left lobe, and even you can observe that in back view we will have one more type of gland called as parathyroid in the back of the that means back view of the thyroid gland. It also contains parathyroid gland, and you can observe that in the two lobes of the thyroid gland is connected by a barrier or a bridge called as isthmus. This is the middle part called as isthmus. This isthmus mainly be a connection between two lobes of thyroid glands. As I said earlier, thyroid glands are bilobed, and then lobes are connected by isthmus and secretes two types of hormone. One is called as thyroxine, and the second one is called as calcitonin. So, thyroxine and calcitonin role is different, and we'll discuss one by one. And we'll first move on to thyroxine hormone. This thyroxine hormone is crucial for the metabolic activity, for the body proper body growth, and then other sexual hormones activation also. This thyroxine hormones is necessary. You already know that in urban environmental conditions, in many house, especially women, will suffer from thyroidal problems, right? And you heard about thyroid, somebody is suffering from thyroidal problems, right? Thyroid problem is there. Like that, they are saying, right? What's the reason behind that? Is the abnormal function of thyroid hormone in adult stages. If in beginning stage only thyroid gland is, ineffective, definitely that causes different types of abnormalities. Definitely that will be noticed through, physically we can notice that. So first one, we'll go with thyroxine hormone. The role of thyroxine hormone is, many is there. We'll go one by one. First one is it will regulate the metabolism. So thyroxine hormone, which mainly released out and then regulate the metabolic activity. So intake of food, intake of other things will be regulated by thyroxine hormone, right? And you can observe that here, whenever metabolic activity will be deteriorated, they will check the um, um, they will check the thyroid hormones also. If malfunction is there, definitely that will mainly regulate, and that they will check the malfunction here, right? So definitely that will thyroxine hormone regulate metabolism. Second role is energy production. As I said earlier, whenever thyroxine will regulate the metabolism, that definitely helps in directly, that helps in energy production also, right? Metabolism that will directly results in energy production, right? Right. If metabolism is not proper, production is not proper, definitely they will look into the production of thyroxine. And then growth and development. Whenever metabolism takes place, production takes place, definitely that will results in development, right? Right. Proper development of the body, girth and height of the body will be properly monitored by thyroxine hormone. And then body temperature is regulated. Take example, if energy is produced, that will also indirectly regulate the body temperature, right? Energy production indirectly, because we are homeothermic animals, we will maintain our body temperature. So for that purpose, energy is necessary, and to maintain the body temperature also. So this is not related to fever here. You can see thyroxine will not regulate the fever here. Fever is regulated by a chemical, and in the brain, in the thalamus region, where you can not in different part of the brain, you can observe that, especially in hypothalamus, where that will regulate the homeostasis because of the release of some chemical called as pyrogen. So that will regulate the temperature during fever. That is different, but normal body temperature is maintained by thyroxine hormone. And heart function, as for each and every body function, energy is necessary. For heart function also, this is necessary, right? Understand? And then maintenance of brain function. Brain function means energy is produced one or the other way, that will regulate the brain function also. If energy is not produced, then brain function will be altered. And regulate other hormones. You can see thyroxine hormones will regulate different types of other hormones, growth hormones, sexual hormones, etc. And then uh, thyroxine hormones also increases the cholesterol level. That means, if improper thyroxine hormone is secreted, body will deposit more fat. You can observe that in your house. If you heard about thyroid problem, ladies, either they are overweighted, they are, I think, over obese, or they are very thin, right? Very thin because of over secretion of thyroxine, which release out the less cholesterol deposition, and that will lead to thin condition. If they are ladies are suffering from thyroid condition, they will have two symptoms: either they are over obese or very thin, right? So in that condition, this thyroxine is very crucial in regulating the level of cholesterol. The last one is, even the thyroxine hormones will influence on menstrual cycle. That is the woman normal functioning of the menstrual cycle means, in 30 days, 20 to 25 to 30 days, they will release this eggs here. And then the menstrual cycle will be maintained by thyroxine hormone. Because if abnormal thyroxine is there, definitely women will have this abnormal menstrual cycle is there. We'll go by one here. Thyroid, hypothyroidism. That means, less amount of thyroxine hormone is secreted. That leads to the three different conditions. You can observe that, the first condition is called simple goiter. The second condition is called as cretinism. Third condition is called as mixed edema. First, we will go with the simple goiter. Simple goiter means, you can observe that we can visually observe the people who have enlarged neck. You can observe that. You can see this is enlarged. Sorry, pardon me. This is you can observe that enlarged neck will be visualized, and here also you can observe that enlarged neck is there. They are suffering from simple goiter. What is simple goiter means? Because of iodine is necessary for the activation of thyroid, and iodine is not proper is there in hill condition. You can see in mountain region like Himalaya as well as in northeast regions, you can observe that they are less touch with the shore, right? Because of that, the soil of those Himalayan region as well as northeastern region will have less iodine in the soil. So iodine is necessary for the activation of thyroid glands, right? If iodine is not there in the soil, then how come the crop will have the vegetable crops or whatever crops are there will have iron? So because of that, you can observe that less iron in the soil as well as less iron in the vegetable. If you consume same vegetable, the hilly people, the people who lives in the hilly region will have less secretion of thyroxine hormone is there. Because of less secretion, the thyroid glands will swell up in such a way that you can see here, we can visually observe that. So for to prevent the disease, the government of India and other governments will recommend iodized salt. That means NaCl is there. This is normal salt that is supplemented with iodine. Understand? That is the symptoms and the treatment for simple goiter. And next condition because of less secretion of thyroxine hormone is called cretinism. You can observe that this less secretion is happened in childhood itself. Whenever in childhood itself, you can observe less secretion of this thyroxine hormone will takes place. You can see in early condition, you can observe that the people who suffer from that will have dwarfism. Dwarfism means even they are adults. These are two adults. They are smaller in stature, right? You can see they are smaller, and then you can see facial conditions where you can observe protruded tongue, and then the face will be different, and legs will be deteriorated, and you can observe that mongoloid features are there, right? So this the condition mainly happens whenever the secretion of thyroxine hormone in childhood. In childhood itself, defective development takes place because of less secretion of thyroxine hormone in childhood itself. The third condition because of less secretion of the thyroxine hormone is called as mixed edema. This happens in adult stage. That means you can see not in childhood stage, but in adult stage, the less secretion of the thyroxine hormones takes place. That means they will have normal size, normal growth, everything is normal, but in adult stage, the improper secretion of thyroxine hormones will not take place. That causes mixed edema. The symptoms of mixed edema means whatever the role of thyroid hormone is there, those symptoms will take place. First one is low body temperature. As I said earlier, thyroxine hormone will maintain the body temperature, right? You can observe here we discuss about that, you know body temperature, right? Body temperature will be maintained, everything. So all those symptoms will be appears here. So here first symptom is low body temperature. The person will feel more chillness during summer conditions. Low blood pressure, as I said earlier, the thyroid hormone will regulate the metabolism, and because of less metabolic activity, less energy, less glucose level, and less energy supply to the heart, and because of less energy supply, low blood pressure, low heartbeat will take place. So nearly 60 beats per minute takes place. Nearly 120 by 80 is normal function. And because of less heartbeat, you can observe that 6 heartbeats are observed in the people who are suffering from mixed edema. And trigger infection, as I said earlier, the thyroxine hormones also helps in proper immune system function. Because of that, that will trigger the infection, and that will lead to the formation of several, cold and uh, cold and cough and fever episodes. And slow breathing, energy is less. Because of that, slow metabolic activity, slow breathing will take place. And you can observe that, you can see, because of less energy, even body will fail to reflex back very quickly. You can see here, the person who is suffering from that, you can see, he is suffering, he is not able to reflex his finger very quickly. You can see, slowly he is moving because of abnormal functioning of thyroxine hormone, which produces less energy, and then muscle will take up less energy, less will have less energy, so that slow or low reflex will be there for the body. And then, because of less energy, less glucose metabolic activity, less sugar level, you can observe that mood swings take place. You can see, generally a normal person will definitely cope up with all the stress here, but who is suffering from thyroid gland or thyroxine, less secretion of thyroxine hormone, especially they are suffering from mixed edema in adult condition, definitely mood swing will be take place. Remember, if in a house, especially females are quarreling with the husband, or they are their mood swing will be altered very quickly without any quarrel. That is the direct result of the mixed edema symptom. That means mood swings takes place. And next one is sluggish face, swollen face or hands. So even because of less energy level metabolic activity, fluid will be filled up in your face, in your body, in your hands. And you can observe that movement of the facial muscles also very less, and then you can slowly move that face muscles also because of less metabolic activity. This is the symptoms of mixed edema. And what will happen whenever excess secretion of these hormones takes place? Whenever over secretion of thyroxine hormone takes place, that causes exothalamic goiter. Simple goiter is less secretion of the thyroxine hormone, but over secretion of thyroxine hormone, that will lead to the exothalamic goiter. So the symptoms of exothalamic goiter is less thyroxine, less metabolic activity, more thyroxine, more metabolic activity, more rapid heartbeat, more than 120 by 80, 160 by 80, 160 by 90 will be the more heartbeat because of less, so more secretion. Sorry, pardon me, more secretion of thyroxine hormone. And shortness of breath, right? Breath will be more, and then they suffer from shortness of breath. They will take less interval to take breath, and eye protrusion. I can observe that uh, eye muscles, lids will malfunction takes place because of the thyroxine hormone. So that eyelid will be altered, and then you will protrude the eye very vigorously. This is the comic movement, but I will show the actual picture of the person who is suffering from exothalamic goiter. And swollen neck, you can observe that whenever excess secretion, that leads to the um, swollen neck because of the swollen thyroid gland. And restlessness, that means sleep, less sleep episodes will be there. In sleep also will have hallucination, illusion, and then you'll frequently woke up from the sleep because of restlessness. And you can observe the actual the patient who is suffering from the exothalamic goiter is look like this. You can see the neck will be swelled down, and then eyelid will be open, and then eye protrusion will take place, and then increased metabolic activity, everything will be shown. And this is the in the revision of that is excess and less secretion, under secretion of thyroxine hormone, which leads to simple goiter, cretinism, and mixed edema will be there. The symptoms are discussed already. and then over secretion, which leads to different type of goiter called as exothalamic goiter, and that will have a typical symptom here. So some scientists are worked out the role of thyroxine hormone, and you can observe that in early stages itself in goats, they removed they removed thyroid gland, right? Because of removal of thyroid gland, and you compare with the normal growing goat, you can observe that the growth is stunted for the goat where the thyroid glands are excised or removed. You can observe that this is the goat where thyroid glands are removed. You can see the difference here. The role of thyroxine hormone, which mainly helps in normal metabolic activity as well as normal growth of the body, that is related to thyroid gland. If you want to check the progress here, we'll discuss about the questions here. Thyroid is located in, that means thyroid is located in neck, especially in the junction of larynx, and cretinism is caused due to, I can observe that cretinism is mainly caused due to under secretion, less secretion of thyroxine in, especially in childhood. Right? In childhood only, secretion is lesser, that will causes cretinism. Over secretion of thyroxine causes exothalamic goiter. So this is exothalamic goiter. And next one is the condition showing swelling on the face and hands and sluggishness is due to what type of condition? That is due to the symptoms. Sluggish face. You can see here. Sluggish face also comes here, and sluggish face also happens in mixed edema. But you need to know that in mixed edema only we will find the sluggish face. Sluggish face means and the face muscles will be not able to move the face muscles properly, and then slow movement of face muscles will be takes place. That is due to the mixed edema. And then the hormones concerned with facial uh, is the thyroxine, facing the danger. Sorry, the hormones concerned with the facing danger is adrenaline. Sorry, facing danger. I don't visualize properly. Facing danger, face the danger or go away from the danger. You already know that that is secreted from the adrenal gland, adrenaline hormone, which released out from the adrenal gland. You can see that will release and increase the metabolic activity and release energy quickly, so that we'll take action against the danger condition. Cortex and medulla are the two regions of the adrenal glands. We already know that adrenal gland will have two parts. It is situated above the kidney and it contains the medulla, and this medulla secrete hormones which mainly helps in facing the danger. And then cortex contains two types of, or secrete two types of hormone. One is glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids, and cortisones also released out. These two things are necessary. Cortisones mainly helps in suppression of hypersensitive reaction. Glucocorticoids helps in metabolic activity, and mineralocorticoids helps in sodium and potassium gated channel proper function. And this um, adrenaline, which is released out from the medulla, which mainly helps in facing the danger and uh, go away from the danger. One of the effect of the next question is, one of the effect of increased secretion of adrenaline is, you can say, uh, effect or symptoms here. Because of increased secretion of adrenaline, you know, face flushed with the blood. You can see dry mouth is not the symptom. Dry mouth is this symptom of insulin, diabetes. And then slowing heartbeat is the symptoms of less secretion of thyroxine. And then face flushed with blood. Why? Because you can see whenever you face danger, face will be, whenever somebody somebody threaten you, your face is flush with blood, and your face will be very red. In that case, that is the main effect of adrenaline. So whenever your face is red because of anger, because of danger situation, that is due to that the common symptom is is face flushed with blood. That is due to adrenaline. So next we'll move on to pituitary gland. So pituitary glands, you can see that is present in the brain, especially in the hypothalamus region. Right? You can see this is the structure of brain. This is the forebrain, and then this is the uh, um, different part of the brain. You can observe that here the hindbrain, and then here you can observe that the hypothalamus region is there. This hypothalamus region is the that is a part of middle brain, where you can observe that there in on on typical type of cells are there, that is pituitary gland. If you take the structure of pituitary glands, it is bilobed, and you can see for the anterior first lobe is called as anterior lobe, and second lobe is called posterior lobe. You can see, and that is connected with a staff-like structure, right? And in between that, a intermediate lobe also present between two lobes of the pituitary gland, and pituitary gland also called as master gland. Why it is called as master gland means this pituitary gland is influence on other type of the endocrine glands also. So because of that, because of controlling all the other type of endocrine glands, it is called as master gland, because of the secretion of these pituitary hormones that will have the function on other glands too. So what type of hormones are released out from the anterior pituitary? So there is two types of pituitary is there. One is called anterior pituitary, second one is posterior pituitary, and middle pituitary is there, middle lobe is there. What is the what type of hormones are produced from the anterior pituitary? So anterior pituitary will produce a hormone called as growth hormone. This is very important. Why? Because the proper development of growth will take place because of the function of the anterior pituitary, which release out a hormone called as growth hormone. It is also called as somatotrophin. Somatotrophin, in examination they will ask what is the role of somatotrophin, means don't confuse with the growth other type of hormones. Why? Because you should remember that the alternative name of this growth hormone is called as somatotrophin. And to confuse you in the examination, they will ask you other type of the abbreviation. Deficiency of this somatotrophin, which leads to dwarfism. So we can also observe that in thyroxine hormones, right? Right, same thing will happens here. You can observe here, somatotrophin will control the growth of the individual. You can say deficiency, which causes dwarfism. You can see this is the people, adult people, but they are smaller in status because of less secretion of somatotrophin, and over secretion which gives to gigantism. You can see here, this is the normal height 6 or 5 to 5.56 feet of the adult fellows, and then you can see this is the gigantic fellow because of over secretion. And over secretion in adult age will causes acromegaly. Acromegaly means, have you seen a WWF champion Kali, right? This Kali is suffer from acromegaly because of over secretion of this growth somatotrophin hormone in adult stage. In early stage it will be normal, but because of adult stage you can see, because of over secretion of the uh, anterior pituitary, especially somatotrophin, that leads to the acromegaly. Remember, in childhood only deficiency takes place, that causes dwarfism. Over secretion causes gigantism. Less secretion in adult, sorry, over secretion in adult, that causes acromegaly. Next hormone is called as TSH hormone. That is called thyroid stimulating hormone. As I said earlier, this hormone also control over other type of hormones also. Remember, right? Why it is called as master gland? It is also influence on thyroid stimulating thyroid gland function. So it releases one more hormone called as thyroid stimulating hormone. So whenever this pituitary gland releases thyroid stimulating hormone, that will also helpful in normal metabolic activity. We already know the function of thyroxine hormone, right? So the pituitary hormone, because of the release of the pituitary gland, especially anterior pituitary, release of TSH hormone, thyroxine stimulating hormone, that will influence on secretion of thyroxine in thyroid gland. You can say next one more hormone is there called gonadotrophin hormone. So the name itself says that gonads. Gonads means reproductive structure, right? The gonads means the gonads, haploid cells which is produced from the reproductive structure plus gonadotrophin. So here it activates the reproductive structure with respective gender here. Test is males, and then ovary in females will be specifically activated because of the release of the gonadotrophin hormone. It contains FSH, LH, and prolactin hormones. What is FSH and follicle stimulating hormones and luteinizing hormones and prolactin hormones, especially in secretion of the milk from the mother pregnant, especially after pregnancy. The mother gives birth for the younger ones, right? After giving birth, you can see the prolactin will be released out, especially in females, which helps in production of milk in the mammary gland. Why we call as mammals? Why? Because we give birth for younger ones and give feed milk through mammary glands. From mammary glands, we call it as mammals, right? And next hormones released from the anterior pituitary is called as adrenocorticotropic hormones, right? Adrenocorticotropic hormone is also called as ACTH hormone. You can observe the regulate the activity of adrenal gland. Remember, the anterior pituitary will release this hormone which controls different other type of endocrine glands. One is called as thyroid gland, which is stimulated by thyroid stimulating hormone. The next one is reproductive structure, gonads, that is activated. That is also endocrine gland, that will be activated by the stimulation of the anterior pituitary. They will release different types of hormones, and then next one is adrenocorticotropic hormones, ACTH, that is activates adrenal gland in emergency condition. Whenever you feel fear or anxiety, definitely pituitary release some hormone, ACTH hormone, that activates adrenal gland in giving quick energy. Next one is posterior pituitary. Whatever we discuss is anterior pituitary. The posterior pituitary also releases two types of hormone. Importantly, vasopressin and oxytocin. So vasopressin and oxytocin will have different role here. The first hormone is called vasopressin. The role is they mainly helps in increasing the blood pressure. Right? Increase in blood pressure means, because of vasopressin release out, the muscles surrounding the blood, veins, you can see they will be dilated, or they will shrink down, which increases the pressure, and BP, blood pressure will be increased out because of the action of vasopressin. And one more role of vasopressin is helps in reabsorption of water from the kidney. Take example here, whenever in emergency condition, we will not able to drink water properly. In that condition, excess of water is there in the urine will be removed in the Henle. So if you take the structure of the kidney, here this is the blood vein, this is the entire structure of kidney. In that, the first one is called as glomerulus capsule. From that, blood will rushes out, and then it will only water and then salts will come out from this loop, and then it will reach up the U-shaped loop called as Henle's loop. In Henle's loop only, we can observe that reabsorption of water takes place because of the release of vasopressin. The other name of vasopressin is also called as ADH hormone. What is ADH hormone means? Anti-diuretic hormone. Whenever ADH is released out from the urine, you can see water is accumulated that will be reabsorbed to the body in emergency condition. Whenever we feel thirsty and we are not able to find the water resources, in that condition, whenever we lost in the forest, we don't know the water resources, the thirst will kill you. In that case, the body will take up that by releasing ADH hormones from the posterior pituitary vasopressin. To confuse the people, they will ask what is the role of vasopressin, or they can also ask the question like what is the role of ADH. The role of ADH means they will constrict the blood vessels to increase the BP or reduce the BP. And one more role is in emergency condition during thirsty, what will happen, the water from the urine will be reabsorbed in the Henry's loop by the releasing of ADH or vasopressin, right? ADH. So deficiency of this vasopressin or ADH, which causes diabetes insipidus. Insipidus means the role of ADH, you already know that, in emergency condition, water will be reabsorbed from the kidney. So those roles will not take place if, deficiency of ADH or vasopressin takes place. Because of that, water continuous loss takes place in the kidney, and then continuous frequent urination will take place, and then plenty of water will be lost. So because of that, the person who also suffer from thirsty, and he needs to take plenty of water because of the non-functioning of ADH or vasopressin because of the malfunction. And one more thing is, we can check, this is a different type of diabetes. No sugar will be there. Why? Because insulin is proper, because of the sugar level will be maintained. But thing is, because of ADH no down regulation or malfunction, water imbalance takes place in the kidney, so that continuous water loss takes place in the kidney, in the Henry's loop, that leads to watery urine, and you can see tasteless, and then no sugar, urine will be excreted from the kidney. Next, one more type of hormone which is released from the posterior pituitary is called as oxytocin. Oxytocin, you already know that oxy means quick, toco means childbirth. This is very important if you split out the words here. So that will give us the clear picture of the role of oxytocin during the delivery. In women especially, this oxytocin is necessary in enlargement of the vaginal cavity, where baby in normal delivery, I am telling, in not the cesarean delivery, in normal delivery, the vagina should enlarge in such a way that the big baby should will come out from the urinary tract, right? For that purpose, this oxytocin is necessary, where oxytocin releases, that helps in contraction of uterus. So the contraction takes place so that the baby will be, comes out easily from the pressure created by the uterus during pregnancy, during delivery condition. Okay, deficiency of this oxytocin. And also, one more role of oxytocin is also helps in milk production, right? So you can see deficiency of oxytocin, which leads to the formation, improper, muscular contraction in the vagina, or uterus takes place, and then deficiency which leads to anxiety, stress, increased sweat, and then increase sweet consumption, and increase the fat accumulation, even relation difficulty, mood swing will take place, addicted to bad behavior, bad habits will take place whenever oxytocin is not properly. Remember, in women, if they are addicted for bad habits, definitely there may be a deficiency of oxytocin also there. This is the glands of the pituitary gland, the anterior pituitary, which gives different types of hormones. First one is growth hormone, deficiency of that will lead to dwarfism, gigantism, and acromegaly. And then hormones are there. Trophic hormones stimulate other endocrine glands, where you can observe that uh, uh, these trophic hormones which activate in anterior pituitary. One is thyroid stimulating hormone TSH, which activate thyroid gland, and then adrenal corticotrophic hormones are there that will activate adrenal gland, and then gonadotrophic hormones are there. So those hormones which is released out from the pituitary gland, from the, especially from the anterior pituitary, which activate and specifically gender specific sexual secondary sexual characters will be formed because of the secretion. And then um, prolactin, milk production also takes place. You can observe that, and even oxytocin also helps in milk ejection. Milk secretion is different, milk ejection is different, right? uh, you know, in examination they will confuse you, like, which hormone which helps in milk secretion means prolactin. So the mammary glands will be secreted and activated to release out milk here, where oxytocin stimulate milk ejection. That means, the from the nipple of the mammary gland, the milk will be ejected because of the movement of oxytocin. That means it will not stimulate milk, but stimulate milk ejection. That means secretion of milk will be takes place by the muscular action of oxytocin. Understand? So can we check the progress here? So here, first one is true or false type of question. Pituitary gland, pituitary is of size of lemon. Is it correct? Pituitary gland, is it correct or not? Pituitary, pituitary is of size of lemon. Is it correct or not? Statement is false, right? So pituitary is size of pea, right? Small size is there. It is size of a pea seed, right? A pea seed type of size is there. It is not the size of you know lemon here. This is false statement. Pituitary has three lobes. Yes, it has the three lobes. One is anterior, second one is posterior, and intermediate. This is true. And then over secretion of growth hormone in adult, which causes gigantism. No, this is false. Over secretion of growth hormone in adult stage, which causes a different symptom called, as you can see, colic. Colic, because of he's uh, gigantic because of the acromegaly. Acromegaly symptom, he is this is false. Vasopressin secreted by vasopressin or ADH. Remember, ADH hormone secreted by anterior lobe control reabsorption of water from the kidney. This is true. And then write the full form of different hormones. The first one is the TSH hormone. This plus thyroid thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone. And second one is called as LH, that is called as luteinizing hormone. That is luteinizing hormone. And then the third one is called as adrenal ACTH, right? ACTH hormone means adrenocorticotropic hormone. Adrenocorticotropic. These are trophic hormones. Trophic hormones. And ADH. ADH means antidiuretic diuretic hormone. These are also called as vasopressin, right? And what causes the following? The third main question is acromegaly. That means over secretion of growth hormone in adult condition which causes acromegaly. And then the second one, what causes the diabetes insipidus? That means you can say diabetes insipidus mainly caused due to the abnormal secretion of vasopressin or ADH hormone. Because of that, in endless loop of the kidney, reabsorption of water will not take place. Because of that, over water will be moved through urine. That is called diabetes insipidus. What causes? That means ADH causes or vasopressin. Here, acromegaly cause due to under secretion, over secretion of the insulin, insulin in the adult stage. Growth, especially insulin means growth hormone, not no, insulin, sorry, growth hormone. Over secretion of growth hormone in adult stage will causes the acromegaly. Acromegaly. So the last part of that, how the hormones are regulated. That means, take example of negative feedback regulation. As I said earlier, insulin, insulin, and glucagon, and then one more hormone is there, right? So the insulin and glucagon, and then uh, these two hormones will have a negative feedback, right? Insulin, glucagon, whenever when you consume food, right? When you consume food, what will happen? The small villi, absorption of food will take place. Whenever absorption of food will take place, that will uh, increases the sugar blood level, right? Sugar level will be increased out, right? And the excess of sugar will be controlled, right? Excess of sugar will be controlled by the insulin hormone itself. That excess of sugar will be converted into glycogen, and that will be deposited in the liver, right? The insulin glucagon, right? And then whenever in liver glycogen will be stored out, right? Whenever in glycogen in liver is stored out, what will happens? What will happen? This secretion, one more, during fasting condition, during exercise, what will happens? You don't have any energy, right? In that condition, what will happens? The energy is stored as a glycogen. Energy stored as a glycogen will be converted by the secretion of one more hormone called as glucagon, right? The glucagon will convert the glycogen into glucose, and then maintain the sugar level. And one more hormones we discussed in the islets of Langerhans of pancreas is somatostatin. Statin, sorry, somatostatin, right? This somatostatin, which suppress the secretion of the insulin, inhibit the secretion of insulin and glucagon. That is called negative regulation. That is mainly maintained by somatostatin. But also we can observe that here, take example like here, red sugar will be raised out after the meal, and then whenever excess amount of sugar is there, sugar, because of the influence of insulin, what will happens? That will be converted into higher reserved food material called as glycogen. And glycogen will be stored, and during fasting condition, less amount of sugar in the blood, that will activate the release of the glycogen in suppressing the secretion of insulin. And this glucagon hormone will be secreted from the islets of alpha cells of islets of Langerhans, reach of the liver, and then in liver these glycogen will be converted into sugar, and then maintain the level of sugar. And then again, whenever we have meal, and then the cycle will continuous. This is the negative regulation or positive regulation of the hormones here. we discussed about one more hormone in islets of Langer that is released from the delta cell is called somatostatin. That is also regulate the secretion of the insulin and glucagon, but also the level of sugar also decide the release of the insulin and glucagon. Remember, excess of sugar is there, insulin converts them into glycogen, and less sugar level is there because of the fasting. Again, the reserved food glycogen will be converted into sugar by the action of the uh, glucagon hormone. Glucagon hormone, both insulin and glycogen will be monitored and suppressed by somatostatin. Remember, this is the regulation of hormones. It is negative feedback regulation of the hormone. Too much, slow down. Too little, speed up. It is the feedback inhibition. Whenever too much is there, the metabolic activity is slowed down, and then the secretion of the hormones will be regulated, suppressed by the secretion of somatostatin, and then one more hormones will be released out during the fasting whenever sugar level is down. That is plus glucagon, which converts glycogen into sugar. That is the regulation of hormones in the either feedback or a negative feedback or positive feedback regulation of the hormones here. That completes your the syllabus here. This is the revision of different glands here, and then um, you will see adrenal gland, pancreas, thyroid gland. Adrenal gland releases it contains two parts in adrenal cortex and medulla. Cortex release out different types of hormones. One is called as corticoids or glucocorticoids, and one more cortisons also released out. And then you can observe that adrenal medulla release out a hormone called as adrenaline, which helps in uh, uh, stay away from the danger situation, so that will give or prepare the body for any emergency condition. And uh, under secretion of this adrenal cortex hormone, which causes Addison disease, and over secretion called as virilism. And pancreas is a typical hormone, typical gland where you can observe that they act as duct as well as ductless glands. You can see duct glands which releases pancreatic juice, ductless glands which release out a typical type of cells. It contains especially three kinds of cells are there: alpha, beta, and delta. Alpha releases a hormone called as glucagon, and then beta cells releases insulin, and then delta cells releases somatostatin, and then insulin regulate, not regulate, sorry, uh, um, helps in take up, it will boost up the cells to utilize the sugar, and also the sugars will be converted, excess of sugar will be converted into glycogen, and then the glycogen during starvation will be converted into sugar by the action of glucagon, and uh, the somatostatin, which inhibit the secretion of both insulin and glucagon. The deficiency of insulin, which causes type 1, remember type 1 type of diabetes, where uh, insufficient secretion of insulin takes place, and then um, if deficiency of glucagon, definitely the liver damage will take place, where liver will not properly function because of the deposition of excess of glucagon. This glucagon will be converted into fats, and liver becomes fatty liver, and then liver will suffer from liver cirrhosis from that. And the thyroxine hormone, thyroid glands, it is mainly situated in the necks of pharynx. Below the pharynx, you can observe thyroxine. So thyroid glands, it releases the two types of hormones, thyroxine hormone and then calcitonin. Thyroxine hormone, which promotes the metabolic activity and the growth and differentiation. Deficiency, which causes simple goiter, cretinism, and then mixed edema, right? Um, and over secretion, which causes exothalamic goiter, where you can observe that eyeball protrusions and restlessness will be the common symptom. And in pituitary glands, you can observe that it is also called as master gland, where it controls all the other other glands, other endocrine glands here. So it contains three regions: anterior pituitary, posterior pituitary, and middle junction. Where anterior pituitary will secrete different types of hormone. The major hormone is growth hormone or somatotropin hormone are there. This somatotropin hormone, um, the somatotropin is different. You can see somatostatin is different, somatotropin is different. Don't confuse with that. Somatostatin is not mentioned in your syllabus, but somatotropin is mentioned. So remember, somatotropin helps in the proper body growth. If improper secretion of this somatotropin will causes dwarfism, and then hyper secretion of that causes gigantism. Hyper secretion in childhood causes gigantism, and hyper secretion in the adulthood causes acromegaly. And it will also release prolactin. This prolactin promotes the lactation in the mother who given birth for the younger one. Right, milk formation will be activated, and then the trophic hormones are there. These trophic hormones will be activated by the anterior pituitary things. In that, first one is adrenocorticotropic hormones. In that, these hormones will activate adrenal gland. Proper function of adrenal gland will takes place by ACTH hormones, and then thyroid stimulating hormones which accumulate the thyroxine production in thyroid gland, and follicle stimulating hormone FSH and luteinizing hormone in gonad. This class gonadotropic hormones that will be released out, which activate gender specific sex determination in females. You can see growth of different female specific things will be will be regulated. In males, you can see production of secondary sexual characters and production of sperm in reproduction will take place by FSH and LH. And then posterior pituitary hormone will secrete two types of hormone. One is called vasopressin and oxytocin. Vasopressin mainly it is also called as ADH, antidiuretic hormone, which helps in vasodilation or increase the blood pressure, and also which helps in reabsorption of water from the kidney. You can see here whenever this ADH hormone deficiency will take place, that causes diabetes insipidus, where ADH hormone will not be properly secreted, which will not reabsorb the water from the kidney. That leads to the watery urine, and you can observe that frequent urination will take place without sugar. That is called diabetes insipidus. And then excess amount of this ADH hormone will elevate the blood pressure. BP will be increased out. And the last hormone from the posterior pituitary is called oxytocin. Oxytocin mainly helps in contraction of uterus during childbirth, and also the oxytocin mainly helps in the um, uh, you know um, muscle contraction in milk ejaculation in mothers. You can observe that lactating mothers, the muscles which is there in mammary gland will be blocked naturally, but the muscles in that mammary gland will be relaxed, and then pressure will be created in rushing out of the milk outside to feed the baby. So this oxytocin also helps in that secretion, ejaculation of the milk.